Good afternoon, everybody. I see we have attendees pouring in, but we have a tight agenda, so we'll go ahead and get things going, and we'll call the meeting to order here on August 6th at 2:01. Catherine, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Dr. Sam?
Present.
Tamara Bellman?
Here.
Jaja Floyd, I see you. Here. She can't talk. Bella Irons? Amaya Lenore? Saw her come in. I thought so too. Elizabeth Mopin? Here. Dorsal Plants?
Here.
And Ruby, Martha Sasarosi? Christina Sawicki? Victor Liu?
Present.
Amy Thomas? We have 6 members present. Kelsey, is anybody waiting to be let in?
Yes, Christina is in the panelists or in the attendees, and Christina, you should be able to unmute now. And it looks like Martha is.
Yep, I
also
see
here with her hand
Martha.
up.
Oh, great. And Amy Thomas, not yet.
This is Christina. Point of order. Bella Irons is no longer on the CoC. She withdrew and quit as of the last day of last month.
Thank you, Christina. I wasn't aware that she was not going to be at this meeting, so thank you for that. And Ruby has just joined us as well. Present. You have 9 members present, Dorsal, and you have met quorum.
Wonderful. And no rush, Ruby. Feel free to get situated. I believe we'll move on to grounding ourselves first with the land acknowledgement. And I apologize if I get people backwards, but I think, Victor, you're doing the land acknowledgement for us?
That's correct. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Liu. For this context, I use he, him, his pronouns, the CoC board member, as well as the liaison of the Charter Revision Work Group. Land acknowledgement. The King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples, especially the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed action, and it's the first step in honoring the land that we today sit on and their people. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. And Tamara, I believe you volunteered to ground us with the theory of change.
I have, thank you. My name is Tamara. I use she, her pronouns, board member. And the theory of change reads, if we create a homeless response system that centers people with lived and living experience of homelessness, then we will be able to respond to needs and eliminate inequities in order to end homelessness for all.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And thank everyone for being here, board members, staff, and attendees. We'll keep things going with our very special guest. We are always so lucky and privileged to have the opportunity to host Dr. Kelly Kinnison. And She's here to provide us an update, and so happy to turn it over to her and excited to hear what she has to share with us.
Thank you so much, Co-Chair Plants. I have an update on our federal funding for the board and attendees today. Starting with the King County v. Turner lawsuit that we're a party to, along with King County on behalf of the Continuum. The parties will continue briefing on this lawsuit through mid-September. And then we'll have some information at that time about what the next steps are. So sort of holding tight. But we have received all but 2 grants from our 2024 awards. So 23 agreements in total. The remaining 2 required a technical submission, which is complete now, and they will begin on January 1st, 2026. So congratulations to all of you for sort of weathering this very rocky road with the 2024 CoC awards. But for now, things seem to be going as we would expect. We've had a number of other federal changes, guidance and things. And so I just want to hit on a few of those so that we're kind of all tracking, and to let you know my team is tracking and knows these are very important to you and how they impact your work. So we're monitoring a sanctuary city list that the Department of Justice published this week. And the purpose of this list was to try to signal which communities may be prohibited from ongoing housing funding because their perception is that we are violating immigration laws. Seattle and Washington State are on the list, but King County is not. This is an issue in the King County v. Turner lawsuit on whether the federal government can use this as a condition for funding in this manner. So like many things, you know, kind of getting policy signals, but we don't know if or how this would be implemented and what kind of legal action may be taken around this announcement. We'll continue to monitor it. If anything changes or we get updates, we'll of course update the CoC membership accordingly. And the third piece was the executive order on homelessness. I'm sure folks are familiar now that on July 24th, there was an executive order asking the U.S. Departments of Agriculture, Housing and Urban Development, and Health and Human Services to assess discretionary grant programs and looking at all kinds of different policy elements that those agencies are funding, including urban camping, behavioral health issues are addressed, how treatment facilities are being used, civil commitments, ensuring that housing first policies are in alignment with the accountabilities that the federal funding asks them to be in alignment with. So I think a lot of that we were, you know, again, the sort of implementation of that is where the real questions come up. We will see our first, I think, action following that executive order with the potential notice of funding announcement that we're all expecting to see. And then we'll see how that is being translated into, you know, the real policy on the ground. As you all can read, I think there's a lot of room for existing funding commitments to continue under that executive order. And of course, there are some other elements that are the subject of legal action. So again, I know I keep saying this, we'll have a better understanding when we see sort of the next NOFO, and as we get more interpretation or funding announcements from some of these other agencies or lawsuits get resolved, we'll be able to see how these may affect our homelessness response system. That's sort of where we are for now. Would be happy to take at your discretion, co-chairs, any questions or follow-up.
Absolutely. Thank you for being generous with your time. Are there any questions? And understanding for a
I'm not
moment.
seeing- Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing any in the room, just for the record, because I know our camera is not on. Because of
No, thank
It's okay.
Question, Kelly. You said Seattle, it's against Seattle, but not King County. I'm lost. What do they mean?
So this is the administration's interpretation of what entities, what sort of jurisdictions are calling themselves sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and have policies that are being interpreted by the Justice Department to potentially violate immigration law. So that is that list. And so I thought it was interesting and important to note for the continuum of care that they did make a distinction between King County as a whole and Seattle and Washington State, who have declared those values very clearly. So yeah, just another wrinkle in these interesting times.
Yeah, it sounds like we're gonna just have to keep rolling with the punches stuff.
Yeah, and I know you all have done incredible work just thinking about, the new opportunities that we may have and how those may align and maybe how they don't align going forward. And I think, our system needs a lot. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities, and we will continue to serve our communities with our values and their values. And so I think there are ways to do both of those things and accomplish both of those goals.
Definitely. Thank you so much for those updates. Was there anything else, Kelly, that you wanted to give us any updates on? Did you see any other information?
That's what's keeping me up at night, colleagues and friends, but happy to address other things if you have questions at this point.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any in the room still. I don't know if anybody else has anything they'd like to add. Oh, Tamara, I see your hand. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. This isn't the first time I've said this, and it won't be the last, but as a woman of color, I'm very scared about what's happening right now, especially since as a first generation Pacific Islander, I don't know. My mom's in Tonga right now. I don't know what it's going to be like for her to come back. This is the first time she's taken a trip outside of the US, and I'm pissed off, frankly. I'm really ashamed to be American right now. And this is not how I wanted to start the meeting, but like when I feel the national pressures hurting us locally, it hurts me personally. And I want to know, because I'm about to go off like in my own like personal advocacy, I'm about to go off. And what is the repercussions if I go off, given my affiliation and my role as a board member and a community member invested in homelessness, or like solving homelessness in a meaningful, permanent way through a well-being revolution. Like, how bold can we be? Like, if the federal government is to march down and like kick down our doors and say we're taking away everything, how bold can we be in fighting back, I guess is my question, because I feel like this is going to be a fight for the next 3.5 years. I'm a fighter, so this is naturally something I'm prepared for, but like also I want to focus on healing. I want to heal this system, this community. This community has stood firm in its values, and it's like it's transformational potential. Like, I was so proud of the primaries, seeing Seattle finally like start to regain some of its sanity. I'm just saying that like we have to commit as a community, like locally and as a grassroots movement. I cannot see my neighbors be forcibly deported because some asshole in power thinks it's okay because we look different, because we are different, because I'm neurodivergent, because I'm a woman of color. I'm not trying to make this personal, so I'm sorry, but like, I'm very concerned about the people who are living on the streets right now, who are living in their vehicles, who are vulnerable. We are their advocates. We have to do something. If they come down on us, what are we going to do to protect ourselves and to fight back? And maybe I'm being dramatic, and I'm sorry, but this
No.
is how deeply I care for my community.
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's really difficult right now for many of us and for some of us, right? It's just hitting home in the way that you described. And thank you for being vulnerable. I would say, that's the extent to which like participation in the CoC, limits or enables advocacy around these issues is something that the co-chairs can advise on, and our staff who are way more expert in this than me can. And those are choices we all need to make for ourselves around our advocacy efforts, as opposed to maybe our employment or our personal beliefs and things like that. So I wouldn't dream of sort of advising you on what to do or not to do. But I would just say, coming together like this as a community of folks who really, that is the end goal, is to address homelessness and the inequities that we see in our homelessness response system. It gives me comfort, and I hope that it can bring you some comfort as you go through what you're going through right now.
Yeah. I would always just, before we go to Dorsol, I would always just say that you can do whatever it is that you'd like as an individual. Like if you state that you're an individual, you make a public comment, say whatever you'd like. Dorsol, are you ready?
Kelly, thank you for being here. Just really quickly, and apologize if you said this and I missed it, or if technically I'm not supposed to ask this. But do you have a sense, like, when the lawsuit, like, understanding most of my experience with the lawsuit is, TV watching. When will the lawsuit reach a point where, like, you all get an answer, or do you have a sense of when that might be? Or
Catherine, is Ed in the room with you by any chance?
Yes, he is. I'm sorry, the camera is broken in here, so he's on Ruby's laptop.
Okay. If Ed will indulge me, I might kick that over to him.
Yeah, is the audio working?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so right now we are in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So we have an injunction or preliminary injunction that prohibits the federal government from enforcing the terms we objected to. So those were the terms that prevented or that were intended to limit immigrant access to shelters and other emergency services. We got that from the trial court. The federal government appealed to the federal government or to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals is going to wrap up briefing in September. At that point, we are waiting to see if they will have oral arguments, and that could be later this year. It could be next year, or they might make a decision after September before the end of the year. And then at that point, we expect the federal government or us would go to the U.S. Supreme Court. So we're expecting a pretty long trajectory at this point. So I don't know when exactly it'll be finalized. I wish I could tell you that it might be a good time.
Thank you for that context. They never said the courts were quick, did they? Speedy trial? Oh, something about that. That's right, I forgot. Thanks. I guess my experience has been on TV as well. Is there any other further questions for Kelly or Ed? Okay. Not seeing any. Shall we move into thank you so much for coming today, Kelly. We really appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So the next segment on our agenda would be public comment. Is there anybody, there's nobody present here in the room, but is there anybody online that would like to make a public comment? Just raise your hand and then we can call on you in the order as received. Not seeing.
There's a hand raised. JJ, you should be able to unmute.
Thanks, Kelsey.
This is JJ, and thank you very much for allowing me to make a comment. And Continuum of care is surely focusing on what we are trying to do is to end homelessness. And everybody is so on this board is so passionate about involving in ending homelessness. That is a very noble cause, first and foremost, without forgetting that we all are in some way impacted in various political ways, such as what Tamara was mentioning, that we individually may be impacted in ways more than just financial or political, but more an emotional way. And hopefully we all here are giving each other the kind of support emotionally, as well as getting involved in doing the work that we do in this moment. And it's very difficult to perceive how hard it is for others who are emotionally experiencing the trauma, the impact, the stress. All of those is beyond words to describe. And I certainly am sharing that as a first generation immigrant myself. And I very much hope that everybody is giving each other the support that we need. And thank you very much for allowing me to speak. And I am very eager to see us work harder. And we are working very hard, but there are parts that we're not able to take control, such as moving the court case faster, moving through the court faster. And as fast as we want to do, we may not be able to make those kinds of demands to have the court to move us singularly faster. So on that note, I applaud everybody's effort and thank you for being here.
Thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. That was a very thoughtful comment. I appreciate it. Is there any other hands up in the room? I mean, in the online? Not seeing any.
Not at this time. The Q&A will be open, so if folks have comments, they can put it in the Q&A.
Great.
You ready for me now, Ruby?
And or also you can. Oh yeah, I was going to say we did have one additional comment that was Christina wanted to make.
Yes, I was given this to read by somebody who wished to remain anonymous. So I'm disabled, so I kind of go slow, so I apologize. The King County Regional Homeless Authority's, KCRHA's, ongoing failure to collaborate with public health partners is deeply concerning and absolutely shameful. This week's disengagement from critical discussions around expanding respite care services for the unhoused community is yet another example of KCRHA's unwillingness to partner meaningfully on shared priorities. Despite the clear intersection between homelessness and the need for intensive behavioral health and medical services, an area prioritized by HUD, KCRHA has consistently chosen to operate in isolation. They have refused to fully participate in necessary cross-agency efforts that could significantly improve outcomes for our most vulnerable neighbors. This lack of coordination undermines the very mission of regionalized care and jeopardizes the health and stability of our unhoused population. Collaboration is not optional, it's essential. KCRHA's refusal to work alongside other critical systems within King County harms our community and delays urgently needed progress on homelessness. We call on KCRHA to recommit to transparent, cooperative, and accountable partnerships with public health, behavioral health, and housing providers within our community. Lives depend upon it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Christina. What is there? What specifically is that regarding? Are we aware? Because that sounds intense.
It is. It's around KCRHA having come before to King County Public Health and Healthcare for the Homeless with a commitment to say they would help and probably, I know I'm emotional about it too. Yeah, and Jaja can't talk. So working for medical respite and for the services in our community. Right now, looking at the eviction rates among our people, our neighbors living in permanent supportive housing and et cetera, we're seeing a lot of individuals that are being evicted for behavioral health, medical reasons. They can't clean their own rooms. They can't even take care of themselves. The supportive services. And King County Public Health is a collaborative applicant with the federal government and our county to provide our mental health, medical care, behavioral health care for the population like myself who is homeless. And KCRHA in the past has said they would work together with developing and building more medical respite. And from what I understand, that came to a halt this week, and there was some very contentious discussions around this, which has really, really damaged the relationship, which just breaks my heart to see that this collaboration has just pretty much stopped. So, you know, a whole purpose of collaborative applicants is to work together as a community among this. And a lot of us, like myself, are sick, have problems, have behavioral health concerns, and we need to work together. And medical respite is so important as somebody who's had the tips of her toes cut off because of frostbite. Having nowhere to go when you're sick and you're discharged from a hospital is really hard when you're put back on the streets.
Okay, so this is specifically regarding medical respite?
Correct.
I mean, we can follow up separately. There was a meeting this morning with people that with representatives from Harborview and the Healthcare for the Homelessness Network related to medical respite. I wasn't an attendee at that, but I'm aware of it happening. So
I was in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
I was just meeting with them.
So I guess I don't know that I think that we should probably touch base on this separately, but I think that there might be some confusion around maybe there was an inadvertent exclusion of someone from a conversation, something like that. I don't know what could necessarily be precipitating that, but I would not characterize what we've been doing as in the way it was just presented.
I see Dorsal's hand.
Sorry, just a couple logistic things. There's a Q&A question related to the comment that was just made, and especially because the camera's off. Thank you for chiming in, Tom, just for the card captioner. And I fail at this all the time too. We're supposed to say our names, which I didn't do when speaking here. So
apologies. So Tom Regan, coordinated entry manager, went first, and then I was the second speaker, Jeff Sims, and the senior director for policy at KCRHA.
What was the Q&A and the question that won't go to the question room? Or
I've posted a response in the chat around a contact.
Perfect, thank you. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yes, I'm wondering, what can the community do to help with this medical respite need? I know that in Spokane, there's a church that's been able to partner and provide space for medical respite. We have way too little medical respite across King County. Are there things that you're working on? Where would people go to get in touch and say, we want to help with this?
I would note that.
Oh, this is Elizabeth Mopan.
Yeah, Elizabeth Mopan and then Jeff Sims.
So Jeff Sims, senior director for policy. Knowing that this is a pretty full agenda, that's actually a very meaty conversation that I think we could probably have at another time. There's various things we could explore and consider. You're right, Elizabeth, that I believe the number of respite beds in King County is 26.
Insufficient.
Wow. I would, yeah. So it sounds like it is this is Ruby, Romero. And I think that, it sounds like the conversation is still in the works and on the table. So, I appreciate the comment that was brought to the board to make sure that that is staying at the top of our minds, as is very important, and to make sure that the community's voice is heard. So thank you for bringing that to us today. If there's no other further comments, we can move on to the next portion of our agenda. Okay, and there was a follow-up. There was a point of contact that was left in the Q&A, correct? Okay, that's what Kelsey said. Thank you guys for that today. Appreciate that. Public comments now closed. We're gonna move into the board and committee updates, yeah? Or, oh, Dorsol, go ahead.
Technically, before you closed it, another attendee's hand did go up.
Oh, great. No, that's fine. Thank you for calling that up. We have Mallory, Vanabama, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sure can.
Thank you. Sorry, I am on an unfamiliar device. Hey, everybody. Mallory Vanabama, she, her pronouns, CoC board, not board member, CoC member. I had reviewed your previous meeting because I was curious about the CoC letter. So I just wanted to put an idea into the minds of you all as board members, the KCRJ staff who are here as well. When you all were reviewing the system performance data, and I think there was a question about housing vouchers that came up. What this is bringing up for me, because your last meeting was, system performance focused, and are we getting information about, our emergency housing vouchers and housing choice vouchers and the like? And the response was that, we've got different databases that are maintained at the Housing Authority and within KCRJ. Later in your agenda, you heard from your planning manager on the addendum that's being created to the 5-year plan. I think, we've got a really kind of critical decision to make collectively as the continuum of care body. KCRJ as an agency, is KCRJ going to remain the emergency room in air quotes in regards to homelessness as an issue for this region? Or are we going to find a very intentional and impactful way to navigate the fact that we need to start thinking about housing in a way where KCRJ kind of has some skin in the game? What I'm trying to say is it is very, very critical that there are data sharing agreements in place to be exchanging information as we see the emergency housing voucher program potentially coming to an end. It was something that when I was a staff member at KCRJ, we were quite elated to have this gift from the federal government of such a historic investment in housing vouchers. Seeing it come to an end, not necessarily because of the administration that is doing all of the things that they are doing right now, but because there was an underestimation in the overall cost to keep those folks housed for 10 years is a real disappointment, and is definitely going to have an impact on the overall number of people experiencing homelessness in our system. We celebrated Camp Unite, or Camp Unity Eastside disbanding because everybody there got housing through those vouchers. If we're not tracking that information, seeing who was housed and who's reentering the system at a day center or a shelter down the line, what did we learn from that? So my just overall ask and request is just in the system performance space or wherever it seems that this kind of discussion around establishing administrative data sharing agreements is the right forum to have those discussions. Please consider having those. I think it's really important that we're tracking, the effectiveness of our programs across systems and figuring out, housing is the solution to homelessness. Then let's figure out how we can have a really more collaborative and effective way of telling the story between the different data bases that are maintained across different entities and agencies. So that's all I had to say. Thank you so much, board members and staff and everybody that's trying to do the good work.
Great. Thanks, Mallory. We really appreciate that. Again, a really great public comment. Appreciate that. Last chance. Now I'm really going to try and close the public comment this time. Is there anybody else? Going once, going twice, going thrice? Okay. Public comment is closed. Now we can move on to the board and committee updates. We're going to start with the system performance committee. was that Tamara or Christina that was gonna provide that update? Christina, is it you?
I was not sent anything to read
Okay.
off,
I
so
do
I
believe-
apologize.
Okay, wait, I do believe that I did see the email come up, so I could pull it up, or Tamara, if you have it ready.
Do you have it ready, Tamara?
Yeah, I do. I have it pulled up. And yeah, I thankfully I got this early this morning. So it's just a brief overview of what happened at the last meeting. So that was on July 16th, and we got an update on the 5-year plan, addendum planning, and that was provided by Kiki. The pit committee was kicked off, and that was briefly discussed, and we also discussed the overall HMIS evaluation process, which I think is pretty cool, giving us an opportunity to evaluate the systems that we're working in. Pretty cool. The survey responses tied to the HMIS lead improvement evaluation matrix is what it's called. And we're looking at continuous improvement across areas like compliance, I hate that term, staffing, training, system administration, and data quality. There were also leads assigned to specific areas, but we don't need to necessarily go over that right now. But that was the update for the evaluation tool in this context. The PIT 2025 update, the reports were submitted to HUD on time. There's ongoing data quality review. There will be no August meeting. The group voted to skip the month of August for SPC meeting, returning next September or in September. And the data standards, the motion was passed unanimously to continue collecting gender, sexual orientation, and other markers that the federal government is essentially discouraging. We're going to continue doing that as a community. And that motion was made by Shauna, seconded by Ruby, and approved by all. Finally, we were briefed on the HMIS user satisfaction survey, and we will start looking at the survey questions and reporting back soon. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Tam. I appreciate it. That next meeting would be September 17th, I believe. Then we have the coordinated entry committee. Jaja, is that you?
It's gonna be Tom. Jaja can't talk.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. So sorry. I hope better. Tom, Rita. Sorry, I keep moving the camera. I apologize, but thank you for bearing with us today.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tom Regan. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the coordinated entry system manager here at KCRHA. And I'm the staffing member of the coordinated entry committee. So I'll be giving the CEC updates in Jaja's place, our co-chair. So we had our most recent meeting was our July meeting. In it, we discussed the 2024 coordinated entry system performance data. So was very proud and very happy to be able to get back on that cadence of that's outlined in our coordinated entry policies and procedures to be providing the CEC with system performance data annually and every quarter. So we're able to get back to that practice, and it was a good, fruitful and productive discussion. So I was happy about that. Some of the discussion questions that came up to kind of probe and take the conversation deeper were, the current metrics that we have, kind of frameworking how we measure system performance data from coordinated entry, are a few years old. It's from HUD guidance and in partnership with our research and data team here, and also kind of a framework that we inherited from our partners at King County DCHS. And so we were just having a good conversation with the coordinated entry committee about, does the data that we're looking at provide clear and understandable ways of measuring CE performance, and are there other metrics or methods that we should consider for assessing effectiveness and having those conversations. So I'm happy to continue to shepherd those conversations and see where they lead us. So the other update that we had for you all today is the continuing development of our assessment pilot project. So I can actually give a little bit more more of an update from the last meeting too, because we had our next pilot focus group meeting actually yesterday. So we're continuing to move forward with piloting the what we think could be like the DESC mini VAT assessment on like a small scale, work with partners to see how something like that could work for our community, and look forward to another meeting to continue to plan before we bring it back to the coordinated entry committee in our August meeting to talk about to present, take questions, feedback, and then kind of hopefully start to talk about next steps for implementation. So the focus group's really excited. I'm proud of them. They've been doing great work. Our CEC members, Sherry, Noah, Eddie, Finn, Portia have really, stepped up to come to the table to help us out with that effort. So yeah, those are our updates for this month. So looking forward to providing more next month.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Great. So moving the camera back over here. I feel like I'm on a real reality show right now. Yeah, I am the camera woman, and there's Elizabeth. Hello. So we need to do one more update, but we did forget to do the meeting minutes. So to approving of last month's meeting minutes. So I think that we'll go ahead and do that vote after this committee update, if that's okay with everyone. So Dorsol, did you want to handle the co-chair update?
Yeah, happy to. And again, the co-chair planning meetings are on Monday at 3 p.m. and they're open to CoC board members, depending on managing quorum. So we appreciate your patience for that. A lot of what we spent the last couple of weeks working on was putting the agenda together. It was a really tight agenda, and so I think a lot of it was kind of figuring out as co-chairs and staff together what fits and what doesn't fit, and how to best negotiate what an agenda for these meetings are, because there's just so much going on, and there's so much that we have to do, and there's so much that we want to make sure we put in front of not just the board but the whole CoC membership. And so it's just a continual progress and process to do that. Always appreciate having other people there to help with that. And really just kind of looked at the future meetings and kind of different ways to potentially engage with the membership, and just continue to pass along information, documents, and things like that. One of the most important things to do in a misinformation campaign is to ensure that good information has every avenue to be spread. And so I think that's what I've got, unless you've got anything you'd like to add, Ruby.
No, you did forget. Sometimes there's good jokes at the meeting. That's important. Anyway, yeah, no, thank you for that update, Dorsol. Is there any questions for any of the updates that we had today? Okay, not seeing any. We're going to move right into the approval of the board meeting minutes from last month, which was July. And so this would be the time to entertain a motion for that.
I move that we approve the minutes.
And who are you?
My name is Elizabeth Mofat.
Okay. Is there a second?
Dr. Sam, I second.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. So we had Elizabeth make the motion and Dr. Sam seconded, and we'll do a roll call vote, please.
We can do a voice vote.
Or we could do a voice vote to make it speedier. All those in favor of approving the board meeting minutes from July, come off mute and say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. And the board meeting minutes from July have been approved. Thank you for calling that out, that we missed those. And we are going to move right into the next vote, which is going to be a CoC letter. So just to give some caption, some context back. So a little while ago, there was the question of what we could do as a continuum of care board to help support instilling our values to speak to what's kind of been going on at the federal level. We learned that lobbying is a very large term, and so we wanted to make sure that we were not doing anything in that sense. So we had some very long discussions about what we can and cannot say. So we kind of landed on just informing people and, you know, the elected officials that we're sending this to understand how important the CoC program is. And we've been sharing that with the board to help us edit and provide any information. So we did go through and make those edits. And then I believe that this final version might have a few amendments that need to be made to it. If there was anybody that had an amendment, but did we want to bring the letter on screen, or what was, or did you want me to read it out loud for the record? I'm sorry, I'm asking you, Dorsol. I should have been clear.
Sorry. Unless the board would like for inclusion, I don't know. It's a lengthy letter, so I think if we could pull it up, it would be helpful, and we could either read specific sections, although I'm open to guidance from others on the board to ensure that this is as inclusive as possible.
I think that'd be a good idea to pull it up so people can have eyes on it.
Okay.
And it should, Catherine did send it out in an email as well. So if you're someone on like a smaller screen like I am, it should be in your as part of your agenda email packet.
Yep. And I'm doing my best to pull that, scurry that on the screen right now. So. For those who did review it, did anybody have any comments, or did they want to provide any amendments to the letter while I'm pulling it up? Jaja, go ahead.
Really, it was just a spelling error. And I was wondering if you caught it. It was like from the bottom going up, the third paragraph at the bottom, it should have said encouraged. It's just a typo, I think.
Okay, there's probably, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelsey, appreciate that. So yeah, there might be a spelling error towards the bottom of the letter. So we're gonna make note of those errors and we can amend them. We can accept the letter as voted as the amendments are included, right? Is that how it goes? Ed, if we're accepting amendments as included and then we can just type it up later?
Yeah, you'd probably want to do that when you do the minutes and then bring the letter back for approval.
Oh, okay.
And,
Go ahead, Dorsol.
We did receive, Victor suggested, if not reading the whole letter, if there are key sections potentially to read.
Yeah, sure. I think that we all know mostly
I found it right there.
Okay, great. So, oh yeah, so at the bottom of the second paragraph, there is.
That's actually the third, but.
Okay, as the third paragraph, we're gonna make that edit instead of what it says now. We'll make
About encouraging communities to do the same.
Yep, we got it. Thank you. I'm sure there's a lot of spelling errors in my life. So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and read that section just because that seems to make the most sense. That's why we're changing that section. Is gonna say localized approaches are instrumental in fostering success within communities. We acknowledge that blanket solutions, in quotes, do not consider there are as many different exits out of homelessness as there are people experiencing homelessness. As a board, we are able to look at our subregions and support the organizations to refine approaches and move forward with solutions that work for them while encouraging other communities to do the same, is what it's supposed to say. And if there's no other note be made. then I think this would be the time to entertain, oh, Dorsol?
One potential note or just point of clarification with the whole board might be, and this might be preemptive because it's talking about signing the letter and we haven't technically voted on it, but just there was some questions last month around like why were like all the board listed and like who should be listed on the letter. And so just want to bring that back up in case there were questions. And I think the current draft doesn't have anyone in the signature block.
Correct. But that is correct.
And I'm happy to throw out the one thought, and Ruby, feel free to jump in and stop me too. The one thought we had initially with including all of the board members is that this was something that we were attempting to do to show solidarity across the system, and we felt to a certain extent that, you know, to be fully clear that having an opportunity for all of the board members to sign the letter so that they have that chance, recognizing that there may be some board members who did not want to have their signature on the letter, and that would be without question, like no question, we'd be happy to remove your signature, but just happy to hear from the board. But the thought behind that was to just show like there is no dissension here. We know our system. We know we are the experts in our community, and we're happy to provide that support at whatever levels needed. And
yeah.
Dr. Sam?
Hi, I have the letter. There's a question I wanted to, this is Dr. Sam. So on the second paragraph where it starts, the CoC program was developed. And let's see what I wanted to ask for clarification. If you read down further, it says that, just a moment, it says, it says, so about 3 sentences down, the response helps the most vulnerable, such as youth and young adults, veterans, and populations, that are underrepresented. When you say subpopulations, can you like give like an example? Like what is do people know what subpopulations, or is that yeah, I just thought that needed to kind of be like teased out a little bit.
Okay. I think the thought behind keeping it more vague was that other areas might have different subpopulations, like that they're tracking that we're not tracking.
And we didn't want to mention trans.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if does that answer your question?
Sort of.
Okay,
You're saying so in this group, can you add some context to what do you mean by sub?
Sure. Yeah, I realized. Yeah, I realized as yeah, sorry about that. So we're speaking towards is like, yeah, the LGBTQIA Two-Spirit plus community. The youth and young adults is a subpopulation, as well as veterans are subpopulation. So those are kind of the examples that I was like leaning on. The vehicle residents would be another subpopulation.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if there's no further questions, I think this would be the time to entertain a motion to accept the letter with the one amendment there that we will have in the minutes for next meeting to approve. Does anybody
This
want
is Christina. I move.
Thanks, Christina. A second?
This is Jaja, I second.
Thanks, Jaja. I think we can do a voice vote on this one as well, or would we prefer a roll call? I think
Roll call.
a roll call is in order.
Dr. Sam,
Approve.
Tamara Bauman.
One quick question before I vote. I'm sorry. Is there time to like recruit the larger membership, or can we have a separate process for the larger membership just to increase the momentum and decrease the pressure, the upward pressure? Or is that going to be too time consuming?
I think that is the thought of bringing this to the board today, is just like the discussion that we've had surrounding the letter would be kind of where we're getting that representation from the membership. As a board, we kind of represent the membership, so we're hopeful that others are feeling the same from our experience and our discussions with.
Thank you. I'm just thinking like it'd be good to get like not just the board's representation, because we do represent our community in some ways, but like I'm talking about getting more like a petition, like a mass petition to like demonstrate the number of people, but also like the commitment to illustrate for HUD, like this is how deeply committed. It's not just the board, it's the entire community. I wonder if that's but anyways, I'm probably making it too complicated, so I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, do it. Let's do it. But then let's also plan for other ways to mobilize. Let's start mobilizing and doing it towards like more upstream kind of stuff, because the crisis response stuff is depleting.
Thanks. Yep. So that was just for the record, a yes. Okay, thank you.
Jaja.
Yes.
All right, there's a yes.
Amaya Lenore.
Approve.
Elizabeth Moken.
Approve.
Dorsal Plants.
Approve.
Ruby Romero.
Approve.
Martha Sasarosi.
Approve.
Christina Sawicki.
Christina.
And come back. Victor Liu.
Approve.
Do you see a message in chat from Christina?
Check. No.
You have 9 yeses. It is approved.
Awesome. With the amendment.
With the amendment.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we account for
And I
that
have it,
amendment in the
yeah, in the
meetings.
minutes.
Yep, okay. Perfect, great, thank you guys for that. I'm gonna move us into, or Dorsal, did you want to take us into the break?
Sure. This is Dorsal. Finally remember to do that. Look at that. We'll move into break now for it's a 10-minute break. I'm showing it's 3 o'clock on my end, so we'll see everyone here at
The 5-minute break.
5-minute break.
5-minute break. So it's 3 o'clock here. We'll be back here at 3:05.
Thank you.
On the agenda, I'm gonna add
Okay, it is technically time to, this is Dorsal Plant speaking, it's time to be back. However, our captioners let us know that the software needed to do a reboot. So I think everyone got an extra minute to drink their coffee, soda.
Water.
Yes, water. Yeah.
So we're waiting a minute then?
For the I think we should wait for the captioner.
Just to be clear.
Yes.
Do we have to vote on that?
You can if you want.
Just to be extra sure, let's make sure it's a roll call vote and not a voice vote.
Yeah. Procedurally.
When will we get a summary of the input that we got at the convening?
Ooh, great question. I'll have to bring that up at the Monday meeting. Yeah, I think we'll bring that up at the Monday meeting and maybe bring.
And
I unfortunately have a class at the same time.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, we can bring it up for you.
Thank you.
just to be clear, and I apologize if this isn't your real name, Eileen, but just let us know when you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I think I'm ready right now. Sorry about that.
No worries.
All right. Well, welcome back for real now, everybody. This is Dorsal Plants. Welcome you back. As we mentioned, it's good that we got a little bit of extra time back in the agenda, but we've got still some pretty substantial discussions to be had. So we'll move into our next topic, which is an update on the NOFO and some of the changes that have been made, along with looking at the values and priorities. And I believe it will be someone who should need no introduction to the board, but Kelsey will be leading us on the presentation here.
Great. Thank you. Hello, all. Kelsey Beckmeyer, she, her pronouns, CoC manager with KCRHA. Wanted to share what we know about the NOFO. We are still waiting for it to be published by HUD. So we're really working off of a very small tidbit of information that was shared on July 3rd. This was then sent out to the membership and the board on July 7th, and then recently about a week or two ago. So we know that there is likely to be a full NOFO process this year. That was not the anticipation based upon what was published in the NOFO last year. It was supposed to be a much more truncated process for 2025. Pardon me. Some of the focuses that HUD has indicated are focuses on treatment-based recovery, street outreach, transitional housing, and workforce development. We are also anticipating that some of the executive orders that have been sent out would be incorporated into the language of the NOFO. So all of this we are kind of working to prepare for and respond to in a way that is both still anchoring our local values as well as being as competitive as possible in order to ensure continuation of CoC funding in our region. The first step that we usually take as a community is an affirmation of the values and priorities that will guide how we rank projects. So this is how we order the priority of projects we want to renew with HUD. And that is the document that I am bringing forth before all of you today that has been reviewed and commented on by the NOFO work group. This is a work group that has been meeting weekly for about a month now, I want to say. So I'm going to share my screen to walk through those with you. This should be a familiar document to many of you. Oh, that's not, oh, nope, I am sharing the right screen. Oh my goodness, I have too many screens. So this is around how we want to present and review projects that are seeking both renewing funding and new funding. This document is, again, should look familiar. I have highlighted the areas where we have seen kind of changes for this coming year, particularly just thoughtfulness around language and how we are framing things, knowing the priorities that may be put forth by the current administration and HUD at this moment in time. So really want to focus on the areas that are highlighted. The ones that are not are essentially carried forward from the previous year, so there wouldn't be any changes there. Really, the areas are, again, these highlights. So we first kind of state the initial values and how we review our priority listing. The areas I want to point to are number 4 of promote human-centered well-being, number 5, promote accessible services and quality service provision for individuals disproportionately impacted by homelessness in our community. Number 6, develop a proactive system that meets the needs of all people experiencing homelessness. The other areas where we have seen some shifts in the language that we are presenting is further below. These are the kind of priority components of projects, what we want to see within individual projects themselves. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Hopefully you all have been able to read this more thoroughly as it was presented to you about a week ago and online. So K, we have reworded to say, do not replace mainstream resources, but make sure that all eligible participants receive assistance in rolling in and keeping any federal or state benefits which they qualify. We then have some change to letter N, which is demonstrate alignment with evidence-based, nationally recognized best practices for accessing and securing permanent housing, and a commitment to delivering high-quality, participant-centered services that are modeled on evaluated approaches, meet participants where they are, and are appropriately staffed to address their needs. Other kind of pieces of this doc are carried forward from last year. So the ask for today, really to, if you all have questions you want to pose around this document and the work of the NOFO work group, and then seeking for you all as a board to affirm the work of the work group to move forward with this document. So I'll open up if there are any questions or comments.
I have one question, but I'm happy to wait and see if anyone else has other questions first. On the, I guess, was it letter F? I guess, what is the kind of just the general definition intent for mainstream like resources here?
That is about resources such as TANF, Medicaid, other resources that are provided through different mainstream funding streams, that we are not using CoC funds to replace those services.
If that service goes away at the federal level, is that not a trying to think of how to frame the question in public meeting.
As you're framing that, so this is a particular HUD priority that they don't want the CoC funds to be used to replace mainstream resources. So this is why this has been put into this document, that we are also going to be kind of following that same priority of ensuring that we are not using funds to cover programs that are already funded through other sources and means.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to the work group and Kelsey for being so thoughtful about how to still instill some of the things that we are holding near and dear to our beliefs. So I love that word salad there. That's good. It's great. I love it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions about the document or any questions for Kelsey kind of about what limited information she might have about the NOFO changes that have come across?
Just a couple other things to kind of share and make sure is on y'all's radar. We are anticipating some adjustments to our rating criteria. This is something that we will be doing in response to what we anticipate having in the NOFO. There are probably some rating criteria from previous years that will not carry forward into 2025. So it's likely, should this come between now and hopefully before the end of August at some point, would either bring those revisions to you all to review, as well as the System Performance Committee in September. And there may be need for a special meeting at that point. Just depends on the timing, but we will get out that information as soon as possible. We are aiming this year to really focus as much as possible on data, both HMIS data, performance data, and other like spending and kind of hard objective numbers. To both kind of ease the potential burden on providers. We're not aware of what the timeline might be, but other recent NOFOs that have been published by the federal government have had truncated timelines than typical. So we do anticipate there being a shorter window of time than we are used to. So in response to that, we want to be prepared to for those who are renewing parties and renewing projects, to kind of get as much from what we know versus more heavy narrative focus that the last few years have had. So there will likely be some rating changes and application changes to kind of truncate or reduce just the amount of information that we are asking providers to complete in order to move things forward in a way that is feasible should we have a truncated timeline.
Great. Thank you for that context. I wanted to hand it over. There is a question in the room. Elizabeth?
Yes, this is Elizabeth Mopin. It's not a question about the highlighted, but about number 8. Grow a proactive, accountable system through transparent and ethical practices guided by accountability to those we serve to ensure funding is clearly and thoughtfully allocated. And as I read that, I was wondering, how are we getting the input from those impacted, and what are the means that we would use to hold people accountable, to hold groups accountable, other than withdrawing funding?
A large way of doing that is through the NOFO process and the local competition. The other is through ongoing monitoring. That is part of the responsibility of KCRHA as a collaborative applicant and a direct recipient of funds. Both those entities are responsible for doing ongoing monitoring of practices and including, those reviews in our reports to you all. That's part of the system performance information that is shared with the board. And again, the big part of this is regarding how we are allocating funds is through the NOFO local competition.
So how are you getting the information from the people who are being served?
We seek that in the local application. We ask around how participant feedback and input is collected at every single program. So that's through some of the questions that we have in the local application.
So we're still relying on the agencies to provide the information. We're not getting it directly from the people served.
At this moment, on the high level, individual organizations get that individually. It is a really big project to get a much more in-depth feedback like that. We have worked with our research and data department on how we can do that in a way that is really meaningful. So that is much more of a long-term project that we are hoping to have instilled in some way, but this is been something that we've talked about with our NOFO process for the last couple of years. And just the depth and level of input doesn't always align with the timelines, but it is still on the radar to look at how that can be improved and embedded.
Thank you. I also had a quick question. So I know in the previous iteration of the NOFO work group, we did some like bonus points for the rating and ranking. I'm curious if bonus points would be considered in that revision, because like what I'm hoping for would be that anything that's like a 0, 1, or 2 would be something that could be delegated as ranking, and like, you know, HUD could have specifics on. But do we feel like that would also encompass the bonus points that we've been putting forward? Or would those bonus points be?
We're really waiting for what's published by HUD to determine the final incorporation of what's in rating, wanting to be really thoughtful that we are not putting forth something that may not be competitive on a national level through HUD's eyes. We have to be really strategic in this process, given that we have about $67 million that are on the line. So really having to balance how do we incorporate and ensure that we are, you know, embedding the values and the things we want to see in programs at a local level versus what HUD is wanting us to submit. So we have to be very thoughtful about balancing those two things, and won't fully know what that will look like until we know what HUD is publishing.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Yeah. Hopefully they say the bonus points can be whatever they like. Anyway, any other questions? I don't see any in the room here. Dorsol?
Tamara.
Yeah, this is Tamara. I just want to be the thorn in the side of the system, as I usually am, and remind us all that continuity of service and care for the community is, yes, ultimately the should be the foundation of everything, every decision that's being made, but also reminding us to never compromise integrity of our values by letting the system co-opt our mindsets and our mental models of what it means to be responsible governors or government entity, working in collaboration with community. I'm a very heart-centered person, as most people know, and so as we're talking about these things that are very personal to me as somebody who's been a resident of King County for the majority of my life, I see how things could be different, you know, and I want us to continue pursuing the collective goal of solving homelessness and deinstitutionalizing it, or deindustrializing it as a core motivator for our system, and to not, in the process of continuity of funding support for our community, that we never like totally acquiesce to the ridiculous demands that they are forcing some of our systems to do. And I'm just asking us to be bold and courageous and brave, and to say F the system when it's time for actual revolution, because that's what's going to happen if we capitulate, is all I'm saying. That I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but I love this community, and bless you all.
Thank you, Tamara, for always being you, because we need you here on the board for that reason. If there are, when we've already asked a couple of times, so I'm gonna ask one last time if there's any more questions about the document. You know, part of the importance of our work here is to really consider this, but it's important to move quickly to some extent today as well too, because the changes have moved. And if there are no more questions, now a motion would be in order to adopt the fiscal 2025 NOFO CoC ranking values and priorities document.
I so move.
I second that. This is Jaja.
Motion by Ruby and a second by Jaja. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right. Catherine, if you would do a voice vote on this one for us. Or not a voice, I'm sorry, roll call.
That's okay. I knew what you meant. Dr. Sam,
Approve.
Tamara Bauman,
Approve.
Jaja Floyd,
Approved.
Amaya Lenore,
Approved.
Elizabeth Mopin,
Approved.
Dorsal Plants,
Approve.
Ruby Romero, approved. Martha Sasarosi,
Approve.
Christina Sawicki, Victor Liu,
Approve.
you have 9 yes votes. It is approved.
I'm wondering, I think I see Christina in the attendees. I don't know if has she been in the attendees the whole time or, oh, there she is. Now she's cool. Thanks.
And so the motion is passed, and just once again, echoing Ruby, just a huge thank you to the board members, the CoC members, and the KCRJ staff that worked on that document, especially with all of the uncertainty around the NOFO process.
Okay. I guess that would move us into our next agenda item, which is going to be the rapid rehousing standards, right? So sorry, I clicked away from the agenda. I want to get it right. So the rapid rehousing standards updates and rent subsidy model changes. I believe that's going to be Kelsey and Jeff. This is something that the cross-cutting policy work group did look over and does recommend for approval today. So go ahead.
I'm not fully ready for approval.
Yeah.
But
or whatever it was
just
that we're supposed to do.
Yeah. So I am going to. Says it started showing my screen, but it's not. There it is.
That's right. We're not voting on it today. I apologize.
Good. All good. So my name is Jeff Sims. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Senior Director for Policy here at KCRHA. And Kelsey, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, all again. Kelsey Beckmeyer, she, her pronouns, the CoC manager with KCRHA.
So we're going to do a two-part presentation, both be tag teaming in this presentation as we go through. We'll start it off with Kelsey.
So we spoke with you all a little bit back in April, if I am remembering myself correctly. But we are making updates to the rapid rehousing standards. This comes from some recommendations from HUD as well as National TA to give these standards a review to ensure that they are in line with national practices and what they're seeing in other urban areas. So I want to provide a little bit of a timeline reminder to you all about the work that has been put into this and reviewed. So there's initial review in early 2022, reviewing all of the different guidelines, funding streams, that are impacting rapid rehousing and that influence how it needs to be shaped and what all of the requirements are. There were further kind of large in-depth listening sessions with a lot of providers and individuals with lived and living experience to get feedback on rapid rehousing as a program, how it's functioning, what are things that folks would want to see elevated across the system that are working really well, as well as things that have been kind of pain points or challenge points that they would love to see be revised or improved. Based on a lot of that feedback, we developed a first draft. This was done in late 23 and early 24, and it was then sent for feedback and highlighted how feedback was incorporated to get input to ensure that what we were hearing was getting applied accurately. We also worked on some new tools, looking at an income and rent calculator based on a model from Los Angeles, that was updated to model our local guidelines. In late 2024 through March of 25, we were doing some final reviews internally with the cross-cutting policy work group, sent this to HUD, and then had our HUD assigned technical assistance provider also review it to provide some refinement and feedback. Since then, we have had a little roller coaster of guidance from at the federal level that has impacted how we've approached subsidies and looking at kind of our response, particularly to Perora, which is a right to work and having to review who is eligible for public assistance. So kind of took a step back from what we had presented to you all in March to reevaluate this. There were then updates to this rule by the DOJ, the Justice Department, that threw a little bit of a wrench into what we had been working on. So we went back to the drawing board a little bit. And mind you, all of this was happening in the span of about 2 months. So there's been a lot of undo, control, alt, delete, all sorts of different things kind of moving us to where we are. So the new DOJ order has really impacted us to look at more fixed subsidy models and kind of continuing to get us to where we are right now. So a little bit of an overview of what is in written standards for programs. So these are the rapid rehousing written standards. They really focus on how a program that is operating rapid rehousing needs to be functioning, the bare minimum requirements, documentation requirements, and policy requirements that organizations need to have. So this is a very provider-oriented document on how to access, how rapid rehousing is accessed in our community, eligibility for rapid rehousing, what the core components of a rapid rehousing program are, and local expectations, and then the policy requirements of what each program must have within their individual program, as well as kind of system across all rapid rehousing programs. We also then put the program standards that are required. This is largely based on system performance measures that are set by HUD. So a little bit of an overview regarding feedback and actions that we took to make sure are embedded more clearly in these standards. One was around the verification documentation for literal homelessness. So we created templates for programs to use that meet HUD standards in terms of documentation requirements so that organizations are meeting that threshold of what is required with monitoring or auditing of a program. We also provided some further clarity in the standards around rent reasonableness, what this is, that is a requirement for all units, and then also creating a template and more detailed guidance for providers on how to complete that to ensure compliance with our various fund sources. The other piece that we provided some more clarity on is the requirement for 12-month leases, maintaining that as a standard, and then noted which fund sources have exceptions around a 12-month lease minimum requirement. We also outlined when exception requests are merited, as well as how to continue providing feedback. There will be a feedback form when these goes live sorry, just got a little distracted, to collect real-time input from providers as these standards get enacted. So the other things that we kind of made some deep clarifications on are that rapid rehousing may go up to 24 months total. Previous or the current guidelines that are in action stipulate that rapid rehousing is 3 to 6 months and up to 1 year. based on HUD feedback from monitoring from them in 2023, they really encourage that we allow up to 24 months. This has been allowed since then, and we do this through a hardship request. So we want to be able to reduce kind of the administrative burden on providers of having to continually request to extend enrollment. And really kind of put it back on providers that they are empowered to make those choices along with their participants, because they know the needs best. We also included clear inclusion of those who are currently enrolled or staying in transitional housing as being eligible for rapid rehousing, as they are considered literally homeless per HUD Category 1. We then also outlined more clear expectations for documentation requirements. We will include a zip file of templates for all documents as well that will be posted on our website for providers to access. And finally, we are working on the rent subsidy calculation. We have been considering fixed models, limiting the rent contribution based on household income, and looking at subsidies being set at 3-month intervals to remove some of the burden of kind of continually reviewing income and realigning subsidy. And that's when I will pass it to Jeff.
Thank you, Kelsey. So as Kelsey mentioned, we were looking at doing these fixed subsidy models. Subsequent action at the federal level leads us to believe that that the benefits of fixing some of those subsidy models wouldn't be achieved. And so we're returning to an income-based subsidy model that is more similar to how things have already existed in our continuum and other continuums. You can see on screen some considerations that as we've had these last few months, a back and forth and really robust engagement around subsidy models and how much assistance to provide and mechanisms and just procedures. Some areas of feedback that we're seeking to incorporate in what we would now approach as being an income-based subsidy model. We do still have on the back burner, and we'll continue to have feedback. This is one of those meetings, but also some additional ones scheduled on if there's still a desire to have a fixed subsidy model. There could be benefits to that around administrative burden or planning for agencies, things like that. But right now, what you can see is that this, what we are assuming right now would be the direction we go, is that we would calculate our rental support based on household income, and that gets adjusted based on a variety of factors, including resources, needs, special conditions of the household. There's a lot of considerations that go into that. It's not just send me your pay stubs, 30% of that with the calculator, here you go. So there would be no more than 30% of a household's income going toward their housing costs. So it'd be based off of household resources, not based off of what is your amount of rent. I think that's pretty important to clarify. Kelsey already covered this, but there would be, this is kind of a departure from what has been stated before, is that assistance can extend for up to 24 months. That might not be what they receive, but making it clear that it is possible, and that's in line with best practices and HUD's guidance for us on how we should be operating rapid rehousing, that a household, if needed, can progress even for that length of period of time. And then we reach the, you are not allowed to continue to receive rental supports. We still incorporate a lot of aspects like hardship requests that Kelsey discussed. These are more related to less things about a household income, but other determinations that you might look at with the household that would justify, hey, I need to depart from what's going on, or and I'm going to give an example in a minute what those kinds of things could look like. And then also we're going to beef up, assuming we go this direction, our section that would be on exits to explain when you exit a household and make that very clear. Especially thinking about how many of our projects are right now offering 3 to 6 months of assistance. And we would be saying, well, you can do that, but also can be eligible for up to 24 months. What does this all mean? How do we need to add clarity for agencies? So first, there are income caps for 8% area of median income. You not having a household that does not exceed that. If the project is receiving ESG, it's a lower cap by statute at 30% of the area median income. Those are low numbers. 80% of the area median income is $84,000, something in that range. But or 36-ish, something like that, if you're ESG. So it's not high, but it gives you a sense of what you're looking at. Agency discretion, there is some pieces in there. A good example of that is if you have not had contact and been unable to make contact with a household that you're trying to provide services towards, pay their rent for, things like that, that would be a reasonable step to take to exit the household from the program. They've effectively already exited. Also, things like mobility requests being something to consider. For example, as we talked about these subsidy models, there were many providers that talked about the reality of how they're delivering subsidies, and that for households that are really getting deep into those 24-month window, that it is a household that's not going to be able to fully assume its housing costs. That's not likely because of the needs of the household. And so having a mobility request process takes time, and you're continuing to provide a subsidy while that household goes through the process of being connected to a permanent supportive housing unit, which can currently take longer than we'd like it to. So let me give you an example. This is a super complicated picture. I realize that, but it shows everything we were just talking about. If you're more of a different kind of an earner, learner. So the green bars that you see is the rent subsidy that this household, let's say Jeff Sims is the client, that I, as the client, would be receiving each month. The blue bar is what my income is. You can see a red bar where it would be well, I'll get to that in a minute. You can see a dotted green line saying that my rent is $1,600 per month for my unit. So you can see that in this model, with how we would picture this, I'm coming in, I don't have household income. So my subsidy initially is very high, and for 3 months I am proceeding with that, but I go through a lot of the supports I receive from the agency, I stabilize, I start working again. You can see my income goes up, and as a result, my subsidy would adjust. And then I continue, actually, after month 6, my household income has increased even more, my subsidy goes down, and then we really hard hit what is maybe an ideal of how rapid rehousing should work, but let's use that as our example here anyway. I have now completed whatever it was that I was doing to really increase my earnings and my household income to the point that I can afford my own housing costs. So maybe I completed a training program, and it took me a little time to get that done, and then also to locate a new job, the new job that pays me in that new situation. But now I'm getting those paychecks, I have new household income, so my subsidy drops to 0. But I'm not exited from the program, still receiving case management services during that period of time, and so forth. Then let's say I have a medical emergency in month 12, and I'm not able to put in the hours at that new job, so my income drops rapidly, and the agency is still able to respond by scaling up. Again, for 24 months, I can receive assistance. This could be a hardship request too, so that I get, for that month, assistance so that I don't lose my housing, don't become housing unstable. I get through that medical crisis, right back to where my earnings have been. I continue for a while, and then I don't need any more, so I'm not needing assistance. What, as written in the standards right now, after a household has not received a subsidy for 6 months, you should not be continuing case management support. So that's your window. When you no longer providing a subsidy, you can have up to 6 months of additional supports that are not the rental subsidy. That's what that big red bar means. As I hadn't received support for that period of time. So after month 18, I would have to be exited from the program. Now it's likely that I've been exited before then. That's why I didn't mark months 16, 17, and 18 as me being much happening there. But that's kind of the model of what we're thinking about how this would go. There is one thing that had come back to us over the last couple of months as a useful consideration, and that's that we shouldn't be changing household subsidies every month. That we should be thinking of longer time frames, because it's really hard as a household to understand and plan for that. I can understand that myself if my housing costs changed every single month, not just because of utilities. So one thing we might consider doing, and this is an area that we'll be seeking feedback, is saying that set subsidy models for 3-month intervals. You have all kinds of reasons you can depart from that at the case manager's discretion, but start off with a pattern that we would seek to do something along those lines. So that's overall the model we're leaning towards at this point. I want to emphasize that this is one of multiple sessions we have to get feedback from a variety of different groups, but we want to make you aware of that. And so I'll pause and see if there's any questions here before I briefly go over what the other route we were looking at, which is still a possibility, but just maybe less likely.
Oh, I see Dorsol's hand pop up.
I just wanted to make sure I understood. So it sounds like some of the recent discussion is instead of a month-to-month determination, using this graph as a chart. So in months, basically what you're suggesting is, so in month 12, I have that you had that medical emergency, you got a rental subsidy of $1,600. And for month 13th and 14, you would receive $1,600 as a subsidy. And then it wouldn't actually be till month 15 probably more like 14 that the case manager would contact the family to kind of reassess the need. Is that kind of what you were saying?
Actually, no, I was looking more earlier in those months. You'll notice that 1, 2, 3, it's all the same amount, 3, 4, 5, or sorry, 4, 5, 6, all the same amount, so on and so forth. So as you're actually calculating what should be the household subsidy, that you're saying this is what it will be, we'll keep it that for 3 months. And then really what you were looking at, Dorsol, I was trying to give the example of the flexibility that agencies would have to still be responsive to client needs and still engage them. So that was really pictured to be a hardship request for a month, that there was an emergency that led to something different, and as a result, we are doing something different with that household. They still, under normal circumstances, should have a 0% subsidy or a $0 subsidy, but in this case, we're making an exception. We're trying to create that dynamic where there's flexibility to provide supports, knowing that even after you are at that, what might be the Goldilocks moment of paying for your rent for your housing, without support, so quickly after having experienced homelessness, that nevertheless there's still supports coming to you.
Got it. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Great. Great question there. Is there any other comments or questions for Jeff or Kelsey?
Seems like a lot of thought went into this.
I think there was a lot of thought.
Yeah, we've had, I want to say like 5 or 6 engagement sessions with different groups, people with lived experience, agency partners. We've had numerous internal meetings to aggregate those comments and input and then make revisions. It was a helpful exercise, which I'm going to switch to now actually, to think about those fixed subsidy models. I'm going to go real fast on these because this is not the direction we're likely to go. But getting lots of input on these really highlighted further considerations that we should incorporate that might be real world things we need to consider for households. So we previously were looking at 3 different models. One would be a 6-month subsidy model, and then 2 approaches to standard 24-month models. The 6-month, especially because that's where most households are receiving something less than 6 months of rental support right now. But then the other is complying with HUD's guidance on how we should have as a best practice. Remember, we're trying to get away from looking at income. So the 6-month one, had some steps down. You're getting almost all of your subsidy within the first 6 months, and then you're basically being ramped out. The 24-month one was a similar concept, except it's lasting over 2 years. And every 3 months something changing. So one agency has expressed support for one of each of these models at least. So, and then there was the extended one, which a lot of agencies, this is where I made reference to households that actually might not be a good fit or capable of taking on all their housing costs long term. But this is something that's going on, and then you are waiting on a mobility request to maybe PSH. I'll share that also when I was in Chicago and working on rapid rehousing programs, this was largely what our model was. We had, I think has heard this story, that we had households that would enter and they completed their first certificate program, then a bachelor's and a master's degree with various course completions, so that they were getting that subsidy that period of time, and then they finished with a master's degree and found the job and were very, very stable. And it took a while to get that done. So this could also be an example of a really successful story as well. We're not leaning towards doing these right now. We think that providing the flexibility for agencies and how they respond and being focused more on every household uniquely would be a better path to go, as long as we've added some of those bumpers to make sure we're thinking about how to provide stability. Are there any steps at that point or questions at that point? I didn't anticipate.
Yeah, no, I just think, did I hear somebody?
So I'm just thinking.
So Elizabeth.
This would only apply to people who are in the rapid rehousing.
Yes.
So I know people who are trying to complete their education and
no, you have to be
jobs.
No, this is only about our rapid rehousing programs, not anything else. Well, let me quickly highlight what our next steps we're anticipating. So as I said, this is one of many sessions that we have planned. You can see the cross-cutting policy work group, which just recently talked about this. We're going to ask them again. So that'll be like your 3rd or 4th meeting on it, I think. We have what we call our base building spaces. That's the monthly meeting of our agencies that provide rapid rehousing. There's already been 3 of those meetings. This would be the 4th. We have our agency partners, DCHS and HSD, so the city and county, giving their review. Then we're, of course, we're going to share this again with HUD to make sure that as we add back some of these pieces and some of these additional considerations that we've come up with over the last few months, that they are really giving us their insight. And then, of course, the formal adoption of these would need to be done by this board. So this meeting was, of course, a chance to hear what we're leaning towards and what this is going to look like. And I anticipate the next time we come to you would probably be further discussion and a request for a vote to formally adopt them. But we have to see how things unfold, right? I really mean that we're getting input and review in the same way that for the last 2 months, we thought we were really close and then things dramatically changed. This is going to be done the right way. So, and then we are looking right now at implementing these standards through a formal rapid rehousing reprocurement for agencies. We don't have, obviously, we've got to get through actually formally adopting them before we would get to that space, but we are moving towards thinking that's how we would apply them. And that would be the formal way of launching it, but also giving agencies the chance to right-size their budgets and their staffing and their performance commitments, which actually is also some of the feedback that we've received, is that that will be really essential as we codify what is now up-to-date guidance, things like that.
Great.
So I'll stop sharing my screen and again pause to see if there's any questions.
Yeah, no, thank you I just wanted to share a little bit. I did attend one of those peer meetings. I'm sorry, I forget the correct term that you said. Base building meetings. And I thought it was really insightful to be there and be present for a lot of the conversation going on. These are the providers that are doing the work. And so they were there was a lot of conversation in there. It was really a great space to be at. So I just wanted to present that as well. If there's any questions. Like you said, I think there was a lot of thought that went into this, so. Not seeing any questions at this moment in time. Great, so we'll see this come back to us for a vote maybe in a few months, maybe.
I mean, maybe next month, we'll see how things go. I think that, clearly we baked things a lot, but let's see where it goes. It couldn't be earlier than that, obviously. But this is really where we're at. It's a final matter of adding some language. The standards are basically written. So I think we're in a good spot.
Cool. Great. And sounds like there's still time to put input if you did have anything you wanted to provide.
Absolutely.
All right, great. So moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which I think is adjournment. Beforehand, I did want to make a couple notes that there's not going to be a system performance meeting like Tamara mentioned, and that the governing board is also not meeting in August, right? So we'll be coming back in September for that, for both system performance committee and governing board. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next month on September 3rd, 2025 from 2 to 4 p.m. And unless there's any objections, I believe we're going to give you, 7 whole minutes back to you for your day. And thank you guys for being here today. Meeting is adjourned. Bye.
Moving to adjourn and voting on.